racist at one time in your life. Most people will find this hard to believe, but it is true.
But it's not that unusual. Most of the leading conservative thinkers of our time did not start off as conservative. You had a couple like Bill Buckley and George Will. But I mean, Milton Friedman was a liberal and a Keynesian. Hayek was a socialist. Ronald Reagan was so far left, at one point the FBI was following him.
So then what was your wake up to what was wrong with that line of thinking?
Facts.
We decided to cold open you with that oldie but goodie because last week was the 94th birthday of the living legend Thomas Sowell, and probably the question I get asked more than anything else when we do Q&As for the show, or just when people say hi to me at the airport or at a restaurant or whatever, is what is my favorite moment of the show? And I think that was it right there. That clip was going viral on X, Twitter, yesterday, so we wanted to start with that. So happy birthday to Thomas Sowell. And he doesn't do many interviews anymore, 94 years young, doesn't do many, but we are working on one more interview. We're trying to make it happen, so I'm speaking it into existence right now. Anyway, you guys know that I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report, and it's July 3rd, 2024. That's right. Tomorrow is America's 248th birthday. We've got a post-game show wrap-up for you at rubinreport.locals.com. I assume you've subscribed to all of our channels already, so I won't even mention it beyond that. And I am a little fired up today because I just spent the last 20 minutes. I was live on Piers Morgan's show debating Joe Biden's brain with Anthony Weiner, which that's like one of those is this real life moments. I mean, it'll be out this afternoon and we'll try to repost it on our channels. But man, watching the machine run cover for Biden, the people who are pretending that there's nothing wrong with him, or the people who are begrudgingly admitting there's something wrong with him, the fact that they have a VP who they only hired for diversity purposes, so nobody knows what to do with that. Like the whole system is in flux right now. There's a lot of funny things about it, right? There's also some scary things about it, because if you're an enemy of America, you might be looking at this as a moment to do something. And we are going to talk obviously about all of that. But we're also going to connect it largely to some other people in the world that are doing some good things. Guys that I talk about, Javier Milei from Argentina, obviously, Nayib Bukele from El Salvador. We're going to connect it to some stuff with Elon Musk and the elections that just happened in France, where they are trying to get rid of the far left and the Islamists, because that is the alliance that we all seem to be facing right now. And of course, that they're going to try to scare the hell out of you as it pertains to Donald Trump and everything else. So let's just dive in. I thought we'd start with it's not that this is good news, start with some sensible thought, let's say. So this is Argentinian President Javier Milei, who in only about 6 months since becoming president of Argentina has completely transformed the country. Their economy was collapsing, right? Their currency was basically worthless. They had huge government programs that were doing nothing. None of the needs of the people were being met. Javier Milei, who's basically a libertarian, he ran on the idea that I'm going to come in, and we've shown you that video, we're going to chop away this department, chop away that department, fire all these lifelong civil servants and everything else, get social justice out of the schools, end wokeness, just give you some authority over your life again. In 6 months, he has almost done a complete 180 with the country. They are economically exploding. There's a lot of goodness in Argentina right now. And I thought, in light of the craziness of America right now, how about we start with an example of somewhere where things are going well. So here's Javier Milei.
Todo lo que podamos privatizar, lo vamos a privatizar. Nosotros no creemos en el Estado empresario. En realidad nada de lo que hace el Estado lo puede hacer bien, lo hace todo mal. Hay una frase hermosa de Milton Friedman y dice, hay 4 formas de gastar. Vos podés gastar tu dinero o el de otros, y los podés gastar en vos o en otros. Entonces, cuando vos gastás tu dinero en vos mismo, vos sabés lo que te costó ganarlo, vos sabés lo que querés, y es la forma en la cual vos maximizás tu bienestar. Ahora, vos podrías gastar tu dinero en otras personas. ¿Qué es lo que haces cuando haces un regalo? Tratás de quedar bien con lo menos posible, o sea, minimizás el costo. Ahora, cuando vos gastás el dinero de otros en vos mismo, derrochás, y eso es un clásico. Entonces, ¿cuál es la peor manera de todas de gastar? Gastar el dinero de otros en otros. ¿Qué es lo que hace el Estado? Por lo tanto, por definición, el Estado funciona mal siempre. Siempre lo va a hacer mal. No hay forma de que
todo lo que se pueda privatizar lo vas a privatizar.
Todo lo que pueda privatizar lo voy a privatizar. No debería quedar nada en manos del Estado. ¿Crees que quitar a un chorro, a un político chorro? Sí. Es el que viene y te dice, no, hay que tener un Estado eficiente. Después de lo que te acabo de contar, no existe el Estado eficiente.
All right, so for the 1% of this audience that is not bilingual and doesn't speak Spanish, because I know you guys are bright, I will translate a little bit there. In essence, the bumper sticker of what he said is that their plan in Argentina is to privatize everything. That the private sector, because it allows for competition, will do more good in virtually every instance than the government, which basically has a monopoly, so the machinery of it doesn't work that well, right? If you get into the government and you have no competition, there's very little incentive to actually make things better. You'll always want more money for programs, but it doesn't mean that the programs work. If you privatize things, if more people can be like, I'm going to open this business and I'm going to open this business, and they largely do the same thing, well, then competition, I'm going to lower my prices. I better lower my prices. I'm going to make a better product. I better make a better product. Competition allows things to grow. That is the beauty of capitalism. That is the beauty of free markets. And that is what he is returning Argentina to. He also said a line that I thought was great. You know how to spend your money better than someone else does. We've all become very confused by this, right? Everybody. What is the worst thing that Bernie Sanders ushered in America? He made it so that jealousy became a virtue. So if you took money, what was the entire thing of the socialist movement? We'll take money from those people to give it to those people to do what we want, and that will be virtuous. No, that is jealous and petty and unfair. I want every single person watching this to keep as much of their money as possible. The government is not good at many things. Now, I am not a complete ANCAP where I don't believe that there should be any government and we should be living in Mad Max, although I do kind of like it at the sci-fi level. And I really did like the prequel, by the way. But we should have, I don't know, say police departments and fire departments, and we should have roads and things. Like, I wouldn't privatize everything. So that's the difference between, say, a full-on libertarian, when you take libertarian to its extreme, and what I would say the classically liberal position is, which is that you believe in individual freedom, you believe in laissez-faire economics, get the government off my back, low taxes for everybody, keep what's yours. You'll figure out what to do with your money, whether you want to spend it or save it or buy a yacht or whatever the hell you want to do. It's up to you because it's yours in the first place. And then we'll have some functional system. We'll have some limited functional system. And by the way, that would be, in this perilous moment that we are in right now as it pertains to Joe Biden's brain, if the power of the presidency and the government had been scaled back, which is the reverse of the way the United States has operated for, I don't know, at least 50 years. The government's always getting bigger. But if we had made the president have less authority over our lives, if the government had less authority over our lives, then it really wouldn't matter, right? So this person's president, okay, they're a liberal. This person's president, they're a Republican, they're a conservative. It wouldn't really matter. But because we've outsourced so much of what should be ours to bureaucrats and politicians who don't care about us, it really does matter who you vote for. Anywho, Elon Musk does agree with Javier Milei, and well, listen to this.
Just in general, I think governments around the world should be actively deleting regulations, questioning whether departments exist. Obviously, President Milei seems to be doing a fantastic job on this front, just deleting entire departments. Fantastic. Yes. Here's the thing about, like, if you delete departments and regulations, you can always put them back. It turns out that those were very important. You can always put them back. And really, this is like taking the brakes off of an economy and of a civilization. We need to snap those strings that are holding Gulliver down and preventing us from making progress.
Of course, he's talking about Gulliver's Travels, that great scene. If you've read the book or if you've watched any of, they've made multiple movies about it. Gulliver's laying there, and he's huge, and they have all these people with these straps keeping him down. And that's all of us right now, right? We have outsourced so much of what should be ours, decisions over our children's education, what we do with our money, all of the things that our founders intended this country to be about us, the individual first. And instead, we created this layer of people, this department, you might call it the deep state, a series of bureaucrats who never move, who make all sorts of decisions and regulations as it pertains to virtually every part of your life. Want to become a hairstylist? You better get that license. Like, they have created a situation that is untenable, and more people are realizing it. And the obvious, the proof is in the pudding, right? Because Milei goes in there, he blows apart all of these agencies, he fires all these government workers, and things are better, measurably better right now, right? Inflation has gone down, their currency is worth more. So if people are afraid to, oh my God, we're gonna blow up the Department of Education. Will anyone be educated? I bet you they will be, probably better. We're gonna blow up this or that and the other thing, we're gonna blow up the, it's like, yeah, well, let's see what happens on the other side. And to Elon's point, if you get rid of some of these regulations, if you get rid of some of these departments, which are just a giant black hole of sucking and not in a good way, well, then you can always put them back if you realize you really screwed up something. Let's also connect this to another leader, because I want to map that there are a couple leaders in the world right now in Western countries who are doing good things, who have their head on straight, whose brains are actually in their cranium, all of that kind of stuff. I am talking about El Salvador President Nayib Bukele. This is from the AF Post. He is firing 300 culture ministry employees in order to promote patriotic and family values. Lawmaker Alexia Rivas stated El Salvador is pro-life, pro-traditional family, and the 2030 agenda has no place here. So look, Bukele has largely come in, and the most important thing that he did was say, we will not have rampant crime anymore. The gangs, I was in San Salvador probably a decade ago. Like, the gangs were running everything. It was not safe on the streets. The little home that I stayed in was in a gated barbed wire community, because those were the safe things. And if you walked outside, there was a good chance you were going to be shot or kidnapped. They had a situation where people were literally just gang members walking into people's homes and just taking over their homes. Sort of like squatters' rights in California and New York. Someone just walks into your house. This is my house now, mother. You got it. But he reversed all of that, and they are starting to do things right. And then what happens? You start eliminating crime, and then businesses are like, oh, there's less crime in El Salvador? Maybe we'll open a restaurant there. I'm gonna open a shoe store. That would be fun. And then things start thriving, and then people have more jobs. It's all good. And of course, the other thing that they did is once they started properly dealing with crime, they were able to clean up a lot of the dysfunction in their government, including what was going on in their judicial system. Check this out from Bukele himself. This is from CPAC a couple months ago.
The people of El Salvador have woken up, and so can you. The global elites, they hate our success, and they fear yours. The people's free will to choose their leaders is something they despise, because they cannot control that. You have experienced this firsthand here in the United States. The global elites control the mainstream media, they finance campaigns, district attorneys, to mention a few. They abuse their powers. They persecute political opponents. In El Salvador, we don't weaponize our judicial system to persecute our political opponents. A practice that may sound familiar to you, but we don't do that there. And who's the dictator?
Okay, so the reason I wanted to start with Milei and Bukele is there are places that things are working, that things are getting better, that the government is less on your head, right? That you're allowed to be freer, that they are doing the simple tasks that government is supposed to do, like making sure that life and property are safe, and that the streets are not overrun with crime and drugs and everything else. So as Argentina and El Salvador are kind of going like this right now, they're on their way up. And Bukele is saying, you could have it too. You used to have it, right? He's just modeling what we used to have to make his country better right now. Well, we could have it again, but unfortunately we ain't doing this right now. What are we doing? We're doing this because we have a president with dementia and a system that has been running relentless cover for him. And right now, you are watching it put together puzzle pieces on how it can maintain control, as so many of us are seeing it for the nonsense that it is. We'll get to more on that in a moment. Let me talk to you guys about Ground News. Guys, we all know how manipulative, this is a perfect ad for this. We all know how manipulative mainstream media can be, often only showing us one side of the story. That's why I started my show. I believe in freedom of speech and having real conversations about what's really going on. And I found an app and website that believes that as well. Ground News prioritizes free speech over controlling the narrative by showing me every side of any news story. As you all know, I recently made a video on Biden's asylum policy in Mexico. In the Ground News app, I have the freedom to only see the type of news sources I prefer, or I can swipe between nearly 300 headlines covering this story to see how it's being framed across the political spectrum. PBS's headline reads, Biden signed an executive order restricting how many migrants can seek asylum at the southern border, right next to Fox News pointing out that moves like this conveniently come as the presidential election nears. For every story, you can find all the articles reporting on it worldwide with context, like if a news source has any political bias, how credible they are, and if any major corporation is influencing their reportings. They even created a blind spot feed to expose what the other side of the political spectrum isn't reporting on, freeing readers of any hidden agendas and political spins. Ground News is bringing back transparency in the news and civil discourse right now from your phone or computer. Best of all, they're independent and subscriber supported, and they're offering my viewers 40% off the same Vantage plan that I use to get unlimited access to all of their features. So go to groundnews.com/Rubin Report or scan my QR code to check them out. Subscribing not only gets you access to a platform where your views are respected while getting the facts without the spin, it supports my work as well. And now back to me. Okay, so we just did two leaders of countries who are taking their countries in the right direction. Most of you watching this know that we have some problems here in America. Let's dive into them. This is from Greg Price, and you know this already. We covered a bit yesterday. Breaking, the Supreme Court has sided with President Trump, ruling that presidents cannot be held criminally liable for official actions of government and delivering a nuke to Jack Smith's January 6th indictment. Now, the court decided, as you know, Supreme Court decided 6-3. That was the decision. It was largely on sort of party conservative liberal lines. And in essence, that way, the president himself will not go to jail for doing certain things. For example, Barack Obama is probably very happy about this because let's not forget, Barack Obama drone striked an American overseas while he was president. And in this case, well, now he can't go to jail for that. So Barack is probably happy about it. But what the media is doing basically is now trying to make you think that this means that when Donald Trump returns, which he likely will, that the death squads and the concentration camps and everything else will be here thanks to this decision. Here's Rachel Maddow over on the televised mental institution known as MSNBC.
And given that the hypotheticals over the course of these arguments, as you rightly pointed out, included things like, can the president assassinate a rival? I think we have to look at the Supreme Court's affirmative answer to that. Yes, you can. With as much seriousness as it deserves. I mean, this is a death squad ruling. This is a ruling that says that as long as you can construe it as an official or quasi-official act, you can do absolutely anything, and never be held accountable, not only while you are president, but forever. And this is a president who has activated pro-Trump paramilitary groups that, you know, wear insignia and T-shirts and hold placards celebrating literally right-wing death squads, right? This is a president who has talked about absolutely using the Justice Department to go after his rivals. This explicitly immunizes anything the president wants to do through the Justice Department, but all but explicitly justifies anything the president wants to do, full stop, to anyone. And that is as serious.
Lady, mirror, get a mirror. Can we send a mirror to MSNBC? Have we done that yet? A whole box of mirrors, as many mirrors as we can buy on Amazon in one shot. You people, it's the Democrats, it's Biden, it's you people running cover for him right now who have been using the Justice Department to try to put your political opponents in jail. That's what you're doing to Donald Trump right now, okay? It's so extraordinary. But yeah, and Donald Trump, where the right-wing military death squads, has anyone seen any of these? I haven't been on the internet in the last 15 minutes or so. Are they out there? It's just like the endless hysteria that they have to do. But of course, that's not only what they have to do over at MSNBC. And by the way, the reason that they're reacting to this story with such fear is because they just know or with such hysteria is because they know it's another fear point for people, right? They see that Biden's brain is melting. They see that Trump largely had a good debate. They see all the momentum there. They see the results of the swing state polls, which now in all 6 major swing states, Trump is leading in all of them. So they have to use just another, what do they have left? Like, they can't be like, but Joe Biden is okay. So they have to go, oh, the Supreme Court is now going to allow Trump to bring in the death squads and the military people with the insignia and the other thing and blah, blah, blah. But it's not just MSNBC. Let's go over to CNN. I'm sure they're dealing with this in a perfectly calm manner.
Basically, the question is, Supreme Court, do you more care about the unlawful conduct of a sitting president or possibly the unfair prosecution of a former president? That's really what they had to balance. They're obviously more concerned about the latter. And so I think politically, it's bad. It makes the Supreme Court look very partisan. They're supposed to be wearing these kind of black and white umpire jerseys or whatever. They look like they're wearing red jerseys or even MAGA hats. It's going to go down bad politically for the Supreme Court. But it's also scary because what is Trump going to do? If Trump gets elected and there's this idea that he can get away with even more stuff, that's really, really scary for the public because he already ran over every norm that he could. So it seems like, I'm just looking at this politically, not legally, politically, it's almost like a license to thug in a way. Like, you can do whatever you want, and the Supreme Court is probably going to let you get away with it. That is very frightening.
Did you get the line that he just said there? He said of a Supreme Court decision, top court in the land, he said, let's look at it politically, not legally. You're not going to believe this, Van, and I know you're thought of as sort of like on the short list of sane people over at CNN. The Supreme Court, when they make decisions, it's based on the law, not on politics. If it was based on politics, then we would also be sending you guys a bunch of mirrors. But I think we just shipped them all to MSNBC, so maybe we can deal with that tomorrow. Because it's you guys who are doing the prosecution of your political opponent right now. It continued, the analysis of all of this continued, and here I can actually show you something thoughtful and interesting. Michael Knowles, my friend Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire, was on Piers Morgan's show, the same show that I was just on before we started, and he was on with this guy Destiny, who I've talked about once or twice. I guess he's sort of like a completely insane liberal or something like that. It's hard to figure out what it is, but he has other dudes bang his wife on camera or something. I don't know. Something like that. Anyway, they got into the irony as it relates to this decision and what's going on with, as they're trying to literally put Trump in jail and screaming that Trump will be the thug.
Just very bad politics by the Democrats.
One of those Supreme Court justices were literally lost by McConnell just robbing a president of the right to seat a judge. Nobody remembers that Garland was supposed to be on the Supreme Court for almost a full year. McConnell said, we're not going to have that hearing. That is indefensible.
Let me bring in Michael here.
Oh, my God.
Tommy has to leave in a moment. So Michael, come to you, then come back to Tommy for a final wrap from her. But Michael.
Destiny, the principle that you're articulating that a president should be able to put a judge on the court in an election year, or rather that you say Mitch McConnell violated, was a rule first articulated by Joe Biden in the 90s when he was trying to kill George Bush's judges. So obviously there was a decision today. It said that the president has some immunity for criminal acts or acts committed in his official capacity as president. And this is based on a 40-year precedent. It really goes all the way back to the Marshall Court. Really nothing should be surprising about this. And yes, the Democrats are upset. They're
not true. That this is
just
based
let me
on
finish
precedent.
1 second, Destiny. They're inveighing because they say we should be talking about the immunity case. Well, but part of the articulation of, I just was reading the decision, was that, look, this is the first time that you've got a president who's being prosecuted in this way. And that's the problem, because the vast majority of Americans, right, left, and center, have been saying in survey after survey that they view the prosecutions of Trump as primarily politically motivated. They view this as kind of corrupt. And that's one of the reasons why Biden's poll numbers have been so bad for so long. And so they throw this Hail Mary to do a debate in June before either party has settled on a nominee, and it completely blew up in their face. And so no wonder people want to talk about it. You've got a political order that is fraying. You got a guy trying to put his opponent into an orange jumpsuit, and it turns out the guy who's trying to do that, it has applesauce for brains.
Yeah, well said. The kids have been eating a lot of applesauce lately, so that's particularly funny to me. Well said, Knowles. But let me just dumb this down to like whatever the lowest common denominator could be right now. Let me dumb it down to this. Do you honestly, person watching this right now, think that knowing nothing about, if all of us knew nothing about the law or anything else, do you think what the Supreme Court just decided was that the President of the United States will be able to send death squads out to hunt down Rachel Maddow and that Muppet Chris Hayes? Do you think that's really what they did? Of course, that is not what they did. We have laws that are in our Constitution, right? We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They can't just send death squads killing people just like that. It's not legal. It's all complete nonsense. But of course, what this is about really is that they are going after Donald Trump to make sure he doesn't become president again. And they want to do everything possible to ensure that that doesn't happen. We've got some video here from Breaking News because it's just so crazy watching what the system does. Remember, Donald Trump's sentencing for the 34 felony counts was supposed to be on July 11th. That would literally be in 8 days from now. However, now it has been pushed to September because we are in the never-ending story right here. Go.
Breaking news, we just learned Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is not opposed to delaying former President Trump's July 11th sentencing. This comes as President Trump attempts to set aside the verdict in this New York criminal trial on immunity grounds. We will dig into this much more with attorney Leo Terrell in just a few minutes, but DA Bragg is not opposed to delaying that sentencing, which is scheduled for next week.
Okay, so subsequently, it now has been delayed to September. Now, do we have a tinfoil hat in here? Can we find a tinfoil hat? Do we have any Reynolds wrap or anything? Allow me to do here. Just pretend I have a tinfoil hat on for 1 second. I would say one conspiracy version of what we just found out is that in light of how bad the last 4 or so days have been for Joe Biden, and in light of the fact that clearly the party is trying to figure out what they can do with him, or what do you have to do with Kamala to push her out, or just all of the things happening right now, that suddenly they were like, all right, there's so much in flux right now. Could we send a signal down to Alvin Bragg, and could we delay the Trump sentencing to September? Because right now it's like, well, it's next week, it's 8 days from now. We're not sure if we want Trump in jail, right? We're not really sure. Let's wait. Let's see what happens over the next 2 months. Let's see what happens at the convention. Like, they're just buying time basically to figure out what they need to do with Trump. Otherwise, why not just make the decision? You guys said you were doing it on July 11th. Why are you delaying it? You're delaying it because Alvin Bragg obviously is not an apolitical prosecutor in New York. He's a Democrat operative who likely was being pushed to do this, the entire farcical trial, from the Justice Department in the first place, and he's operating in a way that will do everything to protect the Democrats. I don't think that that is tinfoil hatty. If someone wants to digitally put a tinfoil hat on me, I will retweet it. We've got a bunch more because the media is in absolute meltdown mode because of what has happened to Biden, and what do I always say? All they can do is ramp up the fear around Trump. So we'll get to more on that in just a second. Let me talk to you about 1775 coffee. Guys, are you a sleepy Joe Biden who has zero cognitive performance, scared of walking up the stairs without worried you're going to fall down? Do you struggle to muster the focus and brain power for the basic things in life, such as eating ice cream or riding a bike? You need to stop drinking woke liberal coffee and start your day by drinking Rumble's very own 1775 coffee. Never mind that it'll be the best tasting coffee you've ever had in your life. It is really good. It's also ethically sourced from a family farm in the high altitude mountains of Bolivia. So instead of waking up tomorrow morning and drinking your mold infested, big corporation owned woke ideology coffee that's probably making you sick from the pesticides it's sprayed with, try Rumble's 1775 coffee, support freedom of speech, and build a parallel economy that actually values you. Go to 1775 coffee right now and pick up your first bag. Use code Rubin to save 10% off your first order. My favorite is the dark roast. I'm drinking it right now. You won't regret it for a moment. Level up your morning routine with a bag of 1775 coffee and sleep well at night knowing that your hard-earned dollars are going towards supporting freedom-loving creators like me on Rumble, not the woke mob. And now back to me. I will say on the coffee front for just a second, people have been asking, we had Paul Saladino on Monday, who's a health and wellness guy. And I mentioned some of the things that I've done lately as it relates to my health and wellness. I do a scoop of whey protein in my coffee and 5 grams of creatine. Have you ever seen anyone more huge? It's like a show hosted by the Hulk. It's incredible. Anyway, let's talk about these crazy people. So yes, MSNBC. Joy Reid, who no longer is wearing the wig. I don't know what happened there. She is freaking out because a certain orange man might be president again. And if that happens, well, she's not very happy.
Because while I will never gaslight you, I'm not going to be out here saying that you didn't see what you saw last Thursday on that debate stage. You saw it. I saw it. Everybody who frantically texted me saw it. And there are plenty of places that you can go to hear about whether and how the Democratic candidate, not the criminal candidate, should step aside. Y'all Democrats handle that. Figure it out and let me know. Because what I know is that Donald J. Trump cannot be allowed back into the White House. Full stop, period. Because Donald Trump is a dangerous, felonious wannabe autocrat who is vowing to release hundreds of violent insurrectionists from prison by pardoning them, to open internment camps on U.S. soil and round up millions of undocumented migrants to put there, and sick the Justice Department on his declared enemies. He has called for the execution of people he doesn't like, including former Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley. He has admitted he wants to be a dictator, like his favorite dictators, Vladimir Putin, China's Xi Jinping, and the dictator of North Korea, Kim Jong-un. And please spare me the on day one bit. They all vow to be only a dictator on day one. Second, Project 2025 cannot be allowed to be implemented in the United States. It is straight up fascism.
People, we have breaking news. Breaking right now. Crazy woman on Psycho Network promises not to gaslight her audience as she gaslights her audience. That's exactly what she did right there. Again, everything mirror. Everything she just accused Trump of doing is exactly what Biden is doing right now. By the way, Donald Trump's going to release thousands of violent January 6 protesters. Yes, that's what we all fear, that they're going to let out some of the January 6 guys, the grandma with the funny hat and the other guy's out already with the Simpsons horns and everything. But it's like, yes, we're going to let them out. And then next thing you know, you're going to have chaos on the streets, right? The whole country is the January 6 people are going to be burning down Ventura Avenue. It's insane. It's so absolutely insane. I can't believe I'm going to do it. I cannot believe I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to give Joy Reid the slightest bit of credit, because she did say that I can't tell you didn't see what you just saw. And that really is the problem that the Democrats and the mainstream layer are having right now. They would have, if Biden had been 10% okay up there, if it had not been an abject disaster at every possible level, they would be doing the lying right now. The narrative would be spinning differently and everything else. But because it was so profoundly horrible, the people who are paid to lie to you for a living are realizing that in this case, they can't lie as much. But what's interesting here is that even the more moderates now are getting it, right? It's not just us crazy right-wingers, it's even the more moderate Dems. You may remember Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, of course, ran as a Democrat last time around, and he was one of the guys that on the day before Super Tuesday, they cut all the deals, and Elizabeth Warren dropped out, and Pete dropped out, and Andrew Yang dropped out, and everybody else except for Tulsi dropped out. He dropped out, Andrew Yang, and then he became a CNN analyst, and that didn't last very long. But here he is now saying that Joe Biden should step down.
I think the Democrats would lose the House and the Senate as well as the White House if Joe Biden was at the top of the ticket. It's one reason why I believe the right thing for him to do is to step aside for the good of the party and the country. I personally do not want to see Donald Trump return to the White House. And I see that as essentially a certainty if Joe Biden is the nominee. And many Democrats, again, are drawing the same conclusions based upon the data that's coming out after the debate.
All right, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Andrew Yang is some great political analysis, right? Like, he did cut a deal with the Dems. Everyone knew that something was not right with Biden last time. The whole argument around Biden last time was that, oh, he's the moderate. He's not one of the crazy Bernie woke people. He'll govern as a moderate. And then, of course, it's been completely the reverse since. But I do think it's interesting that someone who was part of the machine, and again, then took a job the day after he dropped out, took a job at CNN to become an analyst. Now he's basically saying, man, we are screwed if we keep this guy and he better drop out. Of course, in that case, without them doing major trickery, you end up with Kamala and you still probably get crushed. James Carville, we've shown you a couple of videos of James Carville, my old buddy James Carville, who on Real Time with Bill Maher, I had to tell, apparently it was the first time hearing it, that the very fine people on both sides was a hoax. He is a Democrat operative, has been forever. Listen to the number he throws out here. I don't know if this is true, but this is a Democrat operative who hates he hates Republicans. I talked to him backstage. He hates Donald Trump. He wants Democrats to remain in power. But listen to the number, the percentage he throws out here as it pertains to who actually wants Biden as the nominee right now.
We have a country that 72% want something different. If the Democratic Party can't produce something different that 72% of people want, then why do we exist? What are we here for? I mean, the country is clamoring for change. And what are we going to offer them? The same stuff? It doesn't make any sense, Jake. Give the people what they want. Vox populi. They want something different. Let's give it to them.
Now, you really need to understand, the reason these people are now getting on CNN saying this is they realize that the wheels have come off the truck and the truck is heading towards the canyon and it's going to fall in the canyon and explode and kill everybody. And that might be a problem. James Carville, he does not want to go on CNN and say that 72% of people don't want Joe Biden, right? That's the last thing he wants to do. But he sees his party in free fall. And by the way, if any of the things that I've talked about for the last decade have meant anything, the Democrat Party does deserve to be destroyed. It absolutely does. They have ushered in a horrific economy in the United States. They've ushered in an open border in the United States. They've told boys that they're girls. They've ushered in neo-rape. You get it. You get all of that. But CNN, and this is what I think is so interesting about what's going on here, is that usually, what do I always say? Truth is a time-release pill. So that there's always the truth, what happens in reality, right? Very fine people. There was the reality of Donald Trump condemning the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis, Jesse Smollett. The reality was it was a hoax. All of the things. And then it's a time release pill before it reaches the mainstream, because the mainstream basically is the airlock so that the system can stay in front of us. That it just is what it is. Like that's not a conspiracy. That's just kind of it, if you're willing to see it. But what happened on Thursday was there was a new additive put into the ether. And the additive was, holy cow, Biden, everyone saw it at once. That's the thing. It wasn't time release. We all saw the same thing at once. So those of us that had seen it for a while, we weren't surprised. But then for the people that either didn't want to see it or had no idea or apolitical or who were paid not to see it, even they couldn't deny it. Thus, CNN is now left having to do segments on how even Democrat leaders want Biden to step aside.
Anderson, I think it's fair to say the dam is breaking. Top Democratic Party leaders, this includes former and present administration officials, as well as major party donors, are now saying out loud what we've been hearing privately for days, that after what was a disastrous debate performance, they want President Biden to step aside for the good of the party and the country. They do not think this was a one-off event or just a bad night, and they think the stakes are too high, and that, frankly, he would lose to Donald Trump.
I love the way they talk about it. It's so like, oh my God, nobody thinks it was a one-off. Yeah, no shit, where have you people been? Now, I want to give you guys a little bit of a white pill. We always end on the white pill, but I'm doing a mid-show white pill. And the mid-show white people is that we are not against the best of the best. The Democrats and Biden, and I get it, the Obama machine and everything else, it's all scary and they've done a lot of damage, but these are not the best of the best. And the media, the people are tuning out. They are not paying attention to CNN as much as and MSNBC as much, and they're not reading the brainwashing nonsense of Washington Post or New York Times as much. And if you would like an example of how these are not the best of the best, do we have a video of a longtime NBC journalist falling asleep on air? Could you find one of those? We got one? Cool.
Him well. You worked in the White House with him for all those years. Every expectation that, assuming everything goes well, in 5 days we're going to see the president back running around the country again?
Yeah, I think so. And I think
that's Andrea Mitchell falling asleep on air. She has been one of the prime purveyors of all of the lies. I have gone off on her many, many times on this show. She was particularly bad as it pertained to the Don't Say Gay bill here in Florida and a bunch of other stuff. And so, but my point is, these are not the best of the best. They're aging out. Their ideas are bad. We can see through the nonsense more. And Andrea, like, just take a nap, lady, take a nap. So that being said, I would also say that one thing we have to do is let them kind of destroy each other right now, right? The whole idea of the left, this intersectional thing where we're going to bring all these competing interests together to form this super transformer, it was never going to work. So I would say right now, as they are eating each other, let them eat each other. We'll have more on that in a second. Let me talk to you guys about the contagion kit. Guys, listen up. If you're not stockpiling medications after what we've been through, you're setting yourself up. The warning signs are everything. With this bird flu in the headlines, it's our personal responsibility to be prepared. And fortunately, the wellness company developed a contagion emergency kit, a prescription-only stockpile of life-saving medications, including Tamiflu, ivermectin, HCQ, and Z-Pak, medications that every American should have in the medicine cabinet. Easily order online the one-of-a-kind prescription contagion emergency kit from the wellness company. Each prep kit provides you with a carefully selected assortment of effective medications for bird flu, COVID-19, and other respiratory illnesses. These include ivermectin, HCQ, Z-Pak, Tamiflu, and budesonide, along with a nebulizer. Rest easy knowing that you have emergency meds on hand, along with a guidebook for safe use. Backed by research from experts like Dr. Peter McCullough, every American should have at least one of these kits in their home. Avoid the chaos, wait times, and price of the hospital, and have exactly what you need for as low as the cost of a single doctor's visit. At the end of the day, having these life-saving meds on hand will help you not have to worry about whatever is next. Go to twc.health/Rubin and grab your contagion emergency kit right now. That's twc.health/Rubin. Code Rubin saves you 10% at checkout plus free shipping. Kits are available only in the US of A. And now back to me. So, okay, the Dems are in free fall, right? We all see it. Everyone sees it. The media is in free fall. We're watching them try to figure out how to get out of this disaster. The president's brain has melted, and it's still in his head, but it's melted, and everyone knows it. And they can't really force him out. And then even if they did force him out, then they got Kamala. And if they want to force her out, then the base will burn them alive. So they have a huge problem on their hands. But what did I just say? As they're fighting, as they're fighting and trying to destroy each other, we should all be acting like usually the scientists in all of the Godzilla movies, as Godzilla gets to the end and he's fighting the big monster. And then what does the guy say? He looks in the horizon, he has a little tear coming out of his eyes, the sun is coming down, Godzilla's fighting Mothra, let them fight. That's what we should be doing. It's an interesting tweet from Beckett Adams here. He said, I don't know who it was in the Trump campaign who finally got it through to him to keep his mouth shut while his opponent implodes, but he owes that person a raise. I thought that was worth noting because Donald Trump in that debate, I just said this on Piers Morgan right before this show, that was probably the best debate he's ever had. Look, his opponent was completely handicapped, I would say literally and figuratively, but Donald Trump was in command of the issues and he did not attack when it was not necessary. He was quiet when it was necessary to be quiet. He let Biden expose himself. Right? So as the Democrats are dealing with all of these problems, that's probably a bit more of what we should do. Of course, what the system now has been doing is trying to come up excuses for Joe Biden. Now they're saying he was tired because he had been traveling a lot and he was on cold medication. That's what they said immediately, although that now has been debunked by diversity hire Karine Jean-Pierre.
Thank you, Karine. You just reminded us that President Biden had a cold on Thursday. What medications was he taking in the days or hours leading up to the debate?
And I know that question has come in a couple of times to us. He was not taking any cold medication.
Was he taking any medication that would have interfered with his
He
performance?
was not taking any cold medication. That is what I can speak to. I've asked his doctor, and that's what he stated to us.
You know, it's interesting. So the media immediately said he was on cold medication. Now they're saying he wasn't on cold medication, but that quote unquote journalist there, she did a perfectly fine job, but she almost got the real question right. What would be the real question that you would ask Karine Jean-Pierre or Joe Biden or Jill Biden or anyone that has anything to do with this complete farce of administration? There's only one question that should be asked of them. The one question is Joe Biden on any medication for his memory? Is he on any medication for cognitive issues? If the answer is no, well, then they're neglecting the poor guy because clearly something's not right. We all can see that. And if the answer is yes, we should know what medication he's on. What are the side effects? How long has he been on it? How many people have known about it? And that's why they'll never ask him that question because you get it, they run cover for him. So apparently he wasn't on any cold medication. Of course, the day after the debate, they had to throw him up there to talk about the Supreme Court decision, and they spray tanned him, and they obviously put a little juice in the system, but that did not help. Here he is screwing up with the prompter again.
With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote.
Yes, I dissent. End of quote. Do we have another video of him screwing up the teleprompter the day after that? Yeah, we got one of those too.
More people die from extreme heat than floods, hurricanes, and tornadoes combined. Say that again. Combined, more people die from heat than those three other major issues.
Joe, you were supposed to say it again, not say it again. Do we have a video maybe? And now we're going to really, Connor, I'm really going to be pushing you right now because this is going to sound a little weird. Do we have video of Joe Biden yesterday walking up to a black man who he's never met and uncomfortably and oddly sexually stroking his arm. Would you be able to attain one of those type of videos? You would? Cool. Is that corn pop? Like, what is going on, people? What is happening here? Well, what's happening here is that we're watching like the entire thing melt down. And again, the woman behind Joe Biden probably has less going on in her brain, despite, as far as I know, no medical condition, than Joe Biden has at the moment. So now let's jump over to Kamala Harris, because the thing is, we are so late in the game here that it is going to be very, very hard for them to bring in anyone else. So we can all talk about Gavin Newsom, or suddenly out of nowhere, everyone started talking about Gretchen Whitmer, who's basically a female Gavin Newsom. So, but they still have to deal with if Joe Biden dies today, if he falls down the stairs, if he breaks a hip, whatever it might be, or if he just can't do it anymore, if he literally just freezes up, if whatever, they have to figure out what to do with Kamala. And the problem is, she probably wants to be president right now. Here she is she's playing good VP right now because she knows that the system hasn't figured out what to do with Biden yet.
And speaking about stakes, you just came out of a fundraiser. We know that many in your party have expressed concerns about President Biden's health. Just this morning, Congressman Doggett said that he's calling on President Biden to withdraw from the race, given that there's too much at stake to risk a Trump victory. What's your response to this?
Look, Joe Biden is our nominee. We beat Trump once, and we're going to beat him again, period.
Are you ready to lead the country if necessary?
I am proud to be Joe Biden's running mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
It really is so fascinating. It's a little hard to see because this is all unfolding in real time right now. But the sole purpose really of the vice president, like everyone knows, the vice president doesn't do much. You do little pet projects, you have people over at the White House for lunch. But the whole purpose of the vice president really is to just kind of be there so that there's this like slight level of comfort for people if something happened to the president. Think about Mike Pence, right? Like Mike Pence was brought in because everyone thought Donald Trump's nutty and blah. And then bring in Pence. Pence, the man is the most boring person in the history of the world. So bring him in, that'll calm people down, right? There's something so fascinating happening right now because in a normal situation, if everyone didn't think, if Kamala Harris was thought of as thoughtful and interesting and likable and bright and all of that, then there would be very little panic in the system right now. Like basically they would be comfortably showing Joe Biden the door and they would be ushering her in. But because nobody in their right mind, except racists, and we'll get to that in just a second, believe that Kamala Harris should be president, they are freaking out. So now speaking of the racists that believe Kamala Harris should be president, here is a video. It's a woman. I used to know her years ago on Sirius XM. Her name is Areva Martin. She's a California delegate. And here she is warning that black women will go absolutely crazy if the Dems choose anyone, particularly a white man, over Kamala.
First of all, Stephen, who are we agreeing? There's a long list of Democrats: Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer. The list goes on and on and on. You've named 4 or 5 people. Where is their consensus? You've got to build consensus, and there is not consensus right now. If you pick a white man over Kamala Harris, black women, I can tell you this, we're going to walk away. We're going to blow the party up. If you pick the black woman...
Where you going to walk away to, Areva? Where you going to walk away to? You going to walk away? You ain't going to walk away to Trump?
Congrats, you intersectional idiots. This is what you guys built. You built a system so stupid, so based on skin color and unimportant things that you're going to potentially be in a situation that if you choose someone who's a little more functional, if you're able to figure out the mechanism to do it, and you choose someone who's a little more electable than Kamala Harris, well, there you have it. Black women are going to burn the party down. Now, the funny thing is, I wish we had time to get the video. That woman, Areva Martin, you can find it probably on my Twitter, or maybe we can play it next week or something. She once interviewed my friend David Webb. You guys probably remember David Webb. He is a conservative who happens to be black. He's on Sirius XM. That's where we became friends years ago. And he was interviewing her on a radio show. And they were talking about, just the wokeness and race and everything else. And she accused him of being a white man with white privilege on air. And he goes, Areva, I'm black. These are my thoughts and da-da-da. And it's like, that's what's wrong with all of these people. They hear an opinion and they immediately think that that is your everything. That is literally your skin color. So anyway, you don't need to think about her anymore. She's not going anywhere. I just thought this was funny, just kind of in the meme sense of things, by a guy named Joey Morrow. He wrote, unironically, this is a winning theory for a Harris presidential run. And for those of you listening on the audio podcast, on one side you have the Trump mugshot. On the other side you have Kamala with the blue line American flag, the police blue flag behind her in a police outfit. The idea being that, what he's saying, unironically, this is a winning theory, like Kamala could come in and rein in the Democrats and clean up the cities and all that stuff, and Donald Trump will be thought of as the criminal and blah, 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 blah. But okay, I think we've illustrated today and on many other programs that what the left has done with this group of people, taking a whole bunch of people who have competing interests, but tricking them into thinking that they have anything to do with each other, it could not hold. And now when you add in the fact that the president has dementia and you have a VP that nobody is interested in, they have a huge problem on their hands. So let's go to the base of the Democrat Party. And the base is these wokesters, progressives, who have just, again, as I always say, you have to give them credit. They have destroyed so much of the goodness of this country. Well, as you may have known, we're now in July, but June was Pride Month. Did we celebrate around here? We didn't do, there was no, we had no sort of, well, Brock had a heterosexual wedding, but that was, what was that, in June or July? That was June. That was June. We had one, that's how we celebrated Pride Month here at the Rubin Report. My social media guy married a chick. What can you do? We're old school around here. Anyway, they have created such an intersectional matrix of lunacy that, check this out, it was Pride Month, as you know, so they have all their crazy parades. Okay, fine. Here are Gaza Hamas people protesting the Pride homos, or just whatever, go. Like, you guys all deserve this. You all deserve this, because what you want when you're in that intersectional matrix of oppression is to be the most oppressed. And the Hamas people, and of course these are rich lefties for the most part, brain-muddled Marxist morons who went to Ivy League schools, but they want to say that they are more oppressed. We identify with Hamas, a terrorist organization that killed 1,500 Jews 6 months ago. We are more oppressed than you homos and that lesbian over there and that one guy that we can't figure out if it's a guy or a girl. Anyway, let's jump to Toronto, because it's not just New York City that this is happening in. The Hamas people also got in the face of the Toronto Pride people. We're going to blur out some nudity for you. I don't know why these obese men are walking around naked. I'm sure they have their reasons.
Our first demand is an easy one. It's that Pride Toronto must declare itself an apartheid-free zone.
What do you want me to do? You think those guys even knew it was Pride? Maybe it was just 4 fat men wandering around, and then they were like, oh my God, a Pride parade. We were just going to have coffee. It's just so abject insane. And that fat cow screaming about no apartheid. Lady, Israel's the only place in the Middle East where there is no apartheid. They've got 2 million Arabs who live exactly equally, some of them serving in the army right now. And go to 22 Arab nations and see how it's working out for Christians and Jews and lesbians and fat naked men who just want to expose themselves to children. It's not working out that well, as a general rule. But the other part, of course, of what's happening with the left is that they have gone all in on radical Islam. Ilhan Omar, who married her own brother, and for some reason we don't talk about that enough, she is now running for re-election. And here she is at a campaign rally in Minneapolis. Try to find an American flag or English for me. Could you help me out with that? Don't speak Somali. I don't know what she said. I'm guessing that it probably was not something that I'd agree with. But of course, there you have what appear to be hundreds of women in traditional Muslim garb. And it shows you the absurdity, of course, of the intersectional matrix, because I'm fairly certain if one of those fat, obese, naked men have walked by, those burqa women would have beat the shit out of him, right? And probably in that case, deservingly so. Anyway, Ilhan, she's just doing great. No American flags there or anything else. They've also changed the flag of Minnesota so it looks a little bit more like the flag of Somalia. She brought in the former Prime Minister of Somalia, Hassan Karir, and well, here he is. I thought this was pretty good.
xildhibaan ilhaan cumar oo magaca Soomaaliya qalin dahab ah ku qortay qadiyadda ilhaan ma aha qadiyad ilhaan ma aha qadiyad Minnesota ma aha qadiyad reer Maraykan qadiyadda ilhaan waa qadiyad Soomaaliyeed guusha ilhaan waa guusha Soomaaliyeed waxayna noo ximbaarsan tahay macno weyn aniga oo ku hadlaya magaca dadka Soomaaliyeed oo dhan meel walba ay joogaan waxaan idinka codsanayaa inaad hiil iyo hool la garab istaagtaan ku taageertaan codkiina dariskiina saaxiibadiin cid walba ood garanaysaan aad u sheegtaan inay soo baxaan si ay ilhaan ugu codeeyaan albaab walbana aad u garaacdaan sidii dib loogu dooran lahaa ballanteennu waa maxay ballanteennu waa inaad garab iyo gaashaan u noqotaan xildhibaan ilhaan oo aad mar kale dibi doorataan idinkoo isku duuban oo ul iyo diira mar kale mahadsanidin allah idin barakeeyo Soomaaliya ha noolaato.
You remember that scene in Seinfeld, I think it's around season 7 or 8, when George tells Jerry all of his problems, and then he sits there and he's very vulnerable, and he says, "That's, now you know me, that's who I am." And Jerry looks at him and he says, "Well, good luck with all of that." That's basically where I'm at with Minnesota. Sorry, guys. Good luck with all of that. You have imported people who the former president of Somalia is there saying that the woman that he's there supporting is not there to support Minnesota or the United States. She's there to support Somalia, and she's nodding along yes. And they're doing it in another language, and there's not one American flag there. So congratulations. Like, you guys, this is what you ushered in. I give you a golf clap for making it work. And please just don't come to Florida. We're not too friendly to those ideas. Let me show you something from End Wokeness, because if you think that the rot of the Democrat Party is thorough, and it is thorough, there's just no end to the rot. They have opened our borders, and now disabled 15-year-olds are being killed. Massachusetts Judge Susan E. Sullivan, that's her picture right there, she released a Haitian migrant who raped a disabled 15-year-old in a hotel. His bail was set at a mere $500, and he was put back out on the streets. This is what these people are doing. There is no end to it. It is going to keep going. All we can do at the moment is separate ourselves from them. Hopefully, Donald Trump becomes president, we start some mass deportations and a whole bunch of other stuff. But at the moment, you should not want to live in a place where they allow 15-year-old disabled girls to be raped. Massachusetts is another haven of blue insanity, and Governor Healy up in Massachusetts doesn't want people coming there. Just kidding. Actually, you can come as long as we can house you.
So, Governor, you recently sent a team down to the border to basically educate migrants about the lack of space in homeless shelters here in Massachusetts. For those who don't know, I believe Massachusetts is the only state in the country that has a right to shelter law. I believe it was passed in 1983 by Governor Dukakis, an incredibly kind, decent, empathetic effort, but that I think has been sort of overtaken by events, right, because of the changes in migration. What does it say to you about how broken our immigration system is when the governor of a state sort of has to send delegates to essentially say, please don't come to our state because it might overwhelm the services? I mean, how can you even address that?
But I wanted to send folks to the border because I needed to communicate to service providers and others there that the situation here in Massachusetts. And, you know, we are a humane people and we are a humane state. But we don't want people coming here if we're not going to be able to safely house them.
Governor Healy's administration is now asking Massachusetts residents to help with the crisis.
If you have an extra room or suite in your home, please consider hosting a family. Safe housing and shelter is our most pressing need. Become a sponsor family. You can contact the Brazilian Worker Center for more information on how you can step up if you're willing to have an additional family be part of your family.
I'm sorry, guys. These people are not nice or compassionate or empathetic or anything that idiot interviewer asked. By the way, of course, he's a former Obama staffer, that guy. Lady, how many families do you have in the governor's mansion? I'm going to go out on a limb and say 0. I'm willing to make that risk right now. 0. Yes. Oh, please. Oh, you're from another country. I don't know. You maybe want to rape my disabled daughter. Come on in. What do you want for dinner? Can I make you a nice lamb rack? Like, it's so fucking insane, and they are never going to stop. But you know what might stop them? What might stop them is if all of us who are sane, which I think, I will tell you this, James Carville, you said 72% of people don't want Biden in office anymore. I would say that it's 80% of Americans are sane and decent, and we just want a return of 1995 America. Well, we are going to have to support someone who is going to have law and order and boot people out of this country and punish people for crimes and a whole bunch more. By the way, they are having an interesting moment. When I started the show by talking about Argentina and El Salvador, but France, which has been demolished by Islamist immigration, and they have crime everywhere, and rapes are up, and the Jews are all fleeing, going to Israel because they don't want to live amongst that anymore. France just had elections, and Marine Le Pen won big. Well, we've got some info here from the Daily Wire. Protests rocked Paris and several other French cities across France after French President Emmanuel Macron's party suffered massive losses in Sunday's first round of parliamentary elections. Marine Le Pen's right-wing populist party, the National Rally Alliance, was the big winner. National Rally, according to Politico, came out of the first round with 34% of the vote, up from 18% in 2022. That's a huge bump, which means that it's possible for them to win an outright majority next week. So we shall see what happens now in France, but they're going to frame them as far right, and they're alt-right, and they're racist and everything else. But all they are trying to do is make France for French people again. That's it. That's it, okay? And the Islamists came in and they took over, and France is a far cry from what it once was. Here is Marine Le Pen's victory celebration. Crazy right-wing maniacs in France flying the flag of France and singing French songs in French. They were probably eating butter and cheese and bread. Freaking racists. My friend Erin Wexler, I've had on the show a bunch of times. She tweeted this, which I thought was quite spectacular in relation to that video we just showed you. Witnessing the best contagion of my lifetime, conservatism. And that really is right. It doesn't mean conservatism in the most specific way we agree on every policy, but we agree we have nation states for a reason. You're allowed to be proud of your country. Your country should have law and order and everything else. And that there is a purpose to France being France and not being Ireland. And there's a purpose to Ireland being Ireland for the Irish people and not being Sudan or anything else. Here is Marine Le Pen in her victory speech.
J'en appelle à la sagesse et au bon sens des Français. Qu'on me donne une raison, une seule, pour garder sur notre territoire des étrangers qui collaborent avec une idéologie totalitaire qui veut la mort des Français. Les binationaux en lien avec l'idéologie islamiste doivent être déchus de leur nationalité et expulsés. Les Français qui adoptent l'idéologie de l'ennemi doivent être traduits devant les tribunaux et punis. Les lois existent, il suffit de les appliquer. Eh bien, moi, Présidente, ces lois seront appliquées sans faiblir. En quelques semaines, je vous le promets, la France aura pris toutes les dispositions nécessaires pour se mettre à l'abri des fichiers S et en totale conformité avec notre État de droit. Les mosquées radicales seront fermées, les prêcheurs de haine expulsés, les associations faunées du salafisme et des frères musulmans seront dissoutes. Avec moi, ayez la certitude que les droits des femmes aujourd'hui contestés par l'obscurantisme islamiste seront garantis à toutes les femmes de France. Avec moi, la sécurité n'ira pas à l'encontre de la liberté, en tout cas de la liberté des honnêtes gens.
There's so much there for those of you that are not French speakers. In essence, she said, we will not allow this Islamist ideology and the binationals in this country and all of the people who have come in to take over this country. And while we are kicking them out, which we will do, we will not trample on the good, decent, honest French people's right to liberty and all of that. It's the best thing you could want someone to say who is leading a country, dealing with an insurgency inside the country. This is the person that the media will frame as far right. She also talks about women's rights, because women's rights are obviously largely being trampled by these Islamists. And by the way, I'll even go a step further and say, by default, she'll end up defending the gays too. So you intersectional dingbats who are out there promoting for Hamas, who will kill you, it will be the far right that will save you. You will ultimately want to live in far right countries because largely they will basically be like, all right, you're gay, big goddamn deal, let's move on. So there is some hope, guys. So I think we had a nice round show for you. We came all the way around 360 because we gave you some inspiration at the beginning from El Salvador and from, where did we start? And Argentina, of course. And we brought you home in France. And in the middle, it was filled with a lot of craziness in America, but let's pick our direction. Let's do that. Tomorrow is the 248th American anniversary of our American independence. We will not have a live show. However, at 11 o'clock, we did just a short, fun little video for you celebrating July 4th, and then we will be back on Friday. And by the way, if you go to daverubin.store, we've got a bunch of great July 4th merchandise, which right now is 15% off. That'll expire at the end of the week. So the code is FREEDOM15 for 15% off. No cold close today. We're diving right into the post-game show, RubinReport.locals.com. 20 seconds. Goodbye.